Yo, what is up guys, and welcome back to another video. So today I have a Rakk Attack build, and this build is going to be mainly for mobbing. If you're wanting to do a boss build and do purely bosses, I would recommend doing a fadeaway build, and I'll have a link to that in the description to the one I use when I do my bossing farms. But let's get right into this Rakk Attack build, and I will say that this build has been one of the funnest builds that I have used when doing mobs and doing proving grounds. But let's get straight into it. Most of you by now will know what all of the different skills are, and for this build we're going to be using the Hunter and the Stalker trees, and you'll know what most of these are, but let's go through some of the main ones that I'll be using for this build. So we have Interplanetary Stalker to boost the damage and bonuses we do against different enemies. Leave no trace so that when we do our critical hits we get some ammo back for our build. I've put 2 into Hunter's Eye because I don't feel like you need this as much. We've got head count so that we get the critical hits and our action skill cooldown is reduced. 2 Fang, very useful for extra projectiles when shooting. Big game so that our hunter skills become longer, and we have the most dangerous game, so whenever we're killing our badasses we get increased gun damage, handling and critical hits. And because we're going to be doing this on Mayhem 3, when you're doing proving grounds you get quite a lot of badasses. And then Galactic Shadow so that increases the critical hit damage and enemies are less likely to attack. In terms of our action skills augments, we're going to be using the Falconer's Feast so that we get extra rack damage and a portion of our health is restored whenever we use our Rakks. And we're going to be sending 2 additional Rakks forward with Flock and Load. And because we get quite a lot of Rakks in this build, be able to get health back is very useful whenever you're trying to use the ability as much as possible. So when you're going through proving grounds and you'll keep on activating your action skill, you're getting health back as well. And because this build capitalizes on quite a lot of Rakks because of the gear I use, this is a very useful thing to have. In terms of our pet, we're just going to go for the Spider and Scorcher so that we get regenerated health and increased elemental damage, because most of the guns used have elemental effects. Moving on to the Stalker tree, we're going to be focusing on getting health for flak so that we don't get downed as much. So we've got self-repairing system to increase the max health and constantly regen. Furious Attack, another hunter skill, so that we gain Furious Attack and increase our handling and gun damage. I've got Eager to Impress, and because of the class mod I use, this is why it's 9 out of 5. And this is so that we can try and reduce the cooldown to get as many Rakks as quick as possible. I've only put 1 into all my BFFs because I don't play with other people. This is one skill that I've only put 1 in so that we get the pet has twice as much health regen. If you are with a lot of players, so you play not solo but with friends, I would recommend probably putting a bit more into this because they'll appreciate having the shared flak regeneration health. And because I play solo, Lick the Wounds is very useful so that when you do get downed, your pet can come and revive you if you're struggling to get a second wind. Turn Tail and Run, very useful so that we gain damage reduction while we're moving and regenerate health, because you want to constantly move and let off your Rakk attacks as soon as it is available. And then the Fast and the Furious, so that when we're above half health our gun damage and movement speed is increased. So that is the trees. Not going into too much in depth because most of you will know what these skills are by now, but they are the useful ones for this build, so let's get straight into the gear I use. So with like many flak builds, you want to have a Lyuda as your backup if you are wanting to do a lot of damage in a state that you need. And especially at the end of proving grounds, whenever you're dealing with the boss, I find that the Lyuda is very useful to have. And mine is, while terrified, gain increased crit damage, so while this Halloween event is on when you're terrified, this is a very good gun. So for my shotgun, I'm using a speed loading Hellwalker, and this is mainly because it is good against flesh and the fact that it grants an extra Rakk Attack. So with most of your gear, you're wanting to look for an extra Rakk Attack so that whenever you have this gun out, you get an extra Rakk to use. Obviously we've got a Lucian's Call because it is a very good gun when doing proving grounds, and it allows you to get your bullets back when you score critical hits, which is very useful to have so you're not going to run out of ammo. And then as far as my pistol goes, once again I have this on because of the fact that when I use my Rakk Attacks, as I use them a lot for this build, we gain a 25% increased critical hit for a short period of time. In terms of the shield, we have the wall retractifier, and this is because once again it grants an extra Rakk so that we now have more to use and can use them as much as possible. And this one is quite a good shield as well because when it is depleted, anyone that's nearby will get shock damage, and I get a plus 35% damage reduction when crouching. I'm using the Ghost Call as a grenade because I find it's a pretty good grenade to use, and it is from the Halloween event, so if you don't have this yet, you will get it from Captain Haunt or Loot Ghost and Ghosts in that genre. For the class mods, we're going to be using the Showboating Rakk Commander. Once again, we get an extra Rakk to use, and it boosts our Eager to Impress so that our cooldown is a lot quicker. And then in terms of the artifact, I've just been using the Grave just so that when we do get knocked down, I have a much more fight for your life duration, and I get bonuses such as melee damage is increased below 50%, weapon damage below 20%, and increases the splash damage when below 5%. Very useful artifact to have whenever you're doing solo and on your own. If you don't have any of these guns and you have ones that you like but they do have the Rakk Attack perk, I would just use them. It's whatever you're comfortable using really, but Lucian's Call and the Lyuda I would say you kind of want to have if you're doing proving grounds. But it all comes down to, like, the Rakk Attacks are good, but if you know what enemies are weak to certain guns, then you definitely want to use them. Obviously Rakk Attack is very powerful against flesh because they are fire, and you want to be spamming that as much as possible. But that is the gear. This is my Guardian rank if you want to see what bonus stats I have that I've been using. But we're going to go straight into a proving ground now and show you how I use this build. So as you can see, while in the proving grounds, as soon as I have my Rakk Attack ready, I offload that and then switch straight to my gun and do as much damage as possible until my Rakk Attack is back. And it's just, this is how you do it. You just shoot your Rakk Attacks off, damage the enemies, use your guns, get your critical hits to reduce your cooldown, and keep on rinsing and repeating the Rakk Attacks until the enemies are defeated. And that is the basis of this build. If you did enjoy this, make sure to leave a like. It lets me know whether you like these videos or not. I'm thinking of going on to different characters to do builds, not just flag, so if you're interested in that, consider subscribing for these character builds. And with that being said, enjoy the rest of this proving grounds to show how this Rakk Attack build works. And if you enjoy other builds like Fadeaway and Gamma Burst, make sure to check out the description because I have my other builds there. And with that being said, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoy the build, and I'll see you all in the next one soon.
Go for the eyes! find these.